Man, ain't nothing wrong with smoking weed. Weed is from the earth. God put this here for me and you. Take advantage, man. Take advantage. I'm in love with me.
All right. Well, let's make up a funny atheist. Why don't you be Herman?
Herman. Yeah.
Herman the legal drug dealer.
That sounds funny to me.
I mean, that's what's so crazy is we were telling this story on Bad Christian of, and I was using some code and everything because I didn't want to give up who this person was, but I was even telling our listeners about your generosity towards this person because of their chronic pain. And I just find it so ironic when people hear drug dealer, they think, someone that sneaks around in the elementary schools trying to get kids hooked on
lurking in the shadows.
Exactly. It's so crazy. But anyway, so we'll, here we are in Charleston, South Carolina, where medicinal marijuana is not even legal.
Not even a thought.
There you go. So we're gonna even keep your first name an alias. So we'll call you Herman.
Okay.
And but yeah, let's just start with. How long have you been in Charleston, and then how did you get into selling weed?
Okay. I've lived in Charleston for about 20 years or so.
Yeah.
Moved away for a couple years to get into, the medicinal cannabis business on the West Coast.
Yeah.
That's interesting right there. So you would consider yourself just medicinal?
I mean, that's the point of it, trying to be that, legal so that you can offer this medicine to people that actually need it.
Right.
Because for myself, I suffer from anxiety and stuff like that, and I've tried all the chemical drugs, and it just wasn't for me. It made me more panicky and just, too much for my system to handle, and nothing like just a little bit of weed in your It makes me feel mellowed.
Yeah, so I would imagine that a lot of our listeners do not have experience with weed. A lot of them do, but then a lot of them don't. So what does it take for someone, because I know for a fact that a lot of our listeners suffer with anxiety and depression and those sorts of things.
Too many.
So what does it look like for you personally? I mean, is it one of those things to where, oh man, I feel like I'm slipping into some sadness, let me just smoke a little bit? Or is it like smoke a little bit every morning so you don't go there? Or how do you use it?
It's definitely like, just not really a regular schedule. I just feel if I feel a little bit of stress coming on and stuff like that, just take one or two little hits. And I'm not trying to, get messed up by any means. It's just something to relax my nerves without having to, like I said, go to those chemical drugs that just completely numb you to everything. Yeah. And that's not the kind of person that I am,
Yeah, totally. Now, do you ever get totally messed up?
Oh, definitely. And as everyone does, would it be alcohol or whatever, everyone, has occasionally a little glass of red wine, or sometimes they just get drunk,
Yeah.
It's kind of bred into our society. Like that's what you do. You gotta have a release from the normality of your life.
Right, totally. Now, what outside of the actual smoke going into your lungs, and obviously there's many ways of ingesting marijuana, so that doesn't have to be your go-to, but outside of those potential risks, I am very uneducated with potential adverse effects on long-term brain function, like the thing that parents like to throw around is kills brain cells. I mean, how I don't know the truth in any. I don't know.
To be honest with you, there's not enough research that they've done yet, because the government, I feel like, is just trying to keep people at bay with if they're not educated and they don't have anything positive to say about it, then they figure it'll still keep people in the dark.
Yeah.
So that whole it's an evil, it's a drug, don't try it, it's bad for you.
Yeah.
So what little research they have done, most of it is the smoke doesn't really hurt you. The good stuff in it outweighs the bad, really. Yeah. So, the carcinogens aren't going to destroy you. It's not like smoking a cigarette, all that nicotine and stuff that'll just tar up in your lungs.
Right.
And I'm sure there is some sort of effect, but not nearly as bad.
Yeah. Well, it seems like also too, if someone is addicted to nicotine, they're smoking constantly. Whereas if someone smokes a lot of weed, that still is not smoking.
No. I feel like people consider if you smoke a lot of weed, if you like take, smoke 3 times a day or something like that, which is not that much smoke to ingest, really.
I mean, I just think it's so crazy. Like when I was in school, and I would imagine it probably was the same. I mean, I'm a lot older than you, but like in the 80s, I mean, it was seriously, we were taught that marijuana, cocaine, heroin, all that stuff was on equal playing field. It's just insane. Ridiculous. I mean, and that's how I viewed marijuana probably up until early adulthood. I was like, well, that's shit, man. You stay away from.
Yeah,
you know?
I'd say that's most of America still. Like,
right.
When
we first started talking today, you talked about how your motivation to get into it initially was more to help people and stuff. How would you feel if, before we even get into that, how do you get more clients? Like, would you say, and I use this in a very positive way, like a salesman or something, are you a hustler as far as, do you try to find clients? Do you say, hey, spread the word, man?
Most of the time, it kind of doesn't even it almost happens organically, really. Yeah. Like, one friend, can I give my friend your number? Blah, 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 that kind of ordeal. And they always like, if you've known him for a while, that's fine.
Right. So you go to the West Coast and you grow your own marijuana, am I correct?
Sir, yeah.
And so, where some people sell marijuana, they're getting it from someone and selling it for them.
Yeah, exactly.
You're doing it all. You're getting it from yourself and yourself.
I know exactly where, from beginning to end. Yeah.
Oh man, that's really
so
cool.
I know exactly where it came from. I know what went into it. So it's like you said, some people they have no idea where it came from, and the quality of it. It doesn't really matter to them. They're just looking to make $1, and they don't really care about anything other than that.
Yeah, totally. So another thing that I have no idea about, and I've heard people talk about this, but I don't really know what it means, are different strands, different types. What does that mean as far as like how it's planted? Is it a different type of seed? Do they have different effects when people smoke it? I mean, what's that about? Because I do, I have a lot of friends that smoke marijuana, and I don't think that they take the approach of, hey, I want to make an order of such and such strand. They just say, I want to buy $50 worth.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I guess they don't know what strand they're getting. I don't even know what that means.
Well, the science behind all of that has advanced so far in the last, I'd say, 10 years, 15 years, or something like that. And pretty much, there's indica and sativa. One's more of a couch locking body high, and the other one's more of a euphoric, like, head high, real motivating. And there are so many strains, like you couldn't even count them in thousands, and people are constantly breeding new ones, just for different abilities that they have.
Now, do you engineer what you grow to? Like, do you say, I'm going to make this?
We do actually, because I prefer more of the sativa strains, and there's hybrids with both of them in it together. It's all about finding that balance that feels like you're functional still, and you also don't feel, like I said, completely messed up, and just trying to find that happy medium, I would say.
Is it possible for someone to knowingly rip someone off, not with like fake marijuana, but they know it's not that good? Is there such thing as
definitely
not being good?
Definitely. I feel like that happens all the time. Like out here on the East Coast, like you said, people just want $50 worth. They don't really know what it is, where it came from. So it enables the person who has it. They could have the stuff that wasn't actual like prime cuts of the plant. Just like bottom small little cheap nuggets, and they can sell it for the same price over here, just because people over here don't have it readily available to them. Such as like the West Coast people who can go to a store and buy it.
Oh yeah, totally. So, my friend has like a little ceramic on his table, and it's got chocolates in there.
Exactly.
I mean, it's just so crazy because he he was in Seattle before it became legalized, and now he's still there, and he's just like, it is just unreal. You just walk to the store.
You just show them your ID and you can get what you want.
Great. Was it 18?
18 years old.
So you being in Charleston, do you feel ever paranoid of getting caught? Like, are you thinking, oh crap, I shouldn't have talked to that person so candidly, I don't know if it's somebody who's going to tell their uncle who's a cop? Like, are you fearful of like getting busted? I mean, how does that work?
I tend to keep my business under wraps unless it's somebody who I have known for a while, that kind of thing. It's because you do never know who's going to be out there, who's going to, if you sell to the wrong person and they get busted and they want to give the cops your name just to get out of a ticket or something like that. And some people are willing to do that.
Gotcha.
That's why you just got to watch your own back.
Yeah. I mean, so how do you process that? Let's say, well, I mean, I've come to you, and I guess since you and I have a relationship, you felt like it was a trusting situation, as far as the guy that you helped out. But what if I was pretty much a stranger to you, and I don't know how I found out that you sell weed, and I was just like, hey man, can I buy, like, do you want to ask questions, or are you like, well shit, I guess I'll give,
I mean, unless I met the person in person and kind of like running them through the gauntlet of, like getting to know them a little bit better before I, reveal all my secrets, I tend to like tread water lightly, like I said, and make sure that the person is trustworthy.
Yeah, totally. All right, so some other things that I've heard about marijuana is the whole gateway drug stuff. Like, what do you even think about that?
That's silly. I mean, I personally don't believe it, because me as a person, I didn't start consuming marijuana until I was 28 years old. Yeah. So, like, I always figured it would have helped me, but I wanted to wait and made my own educated decision before I started like even diving into it, and so I wasn't just smoking to get high like a teenage kid and stuff like that. Right. It's all personal choice, really.
Yeah, totally. Is there like so if I go to the doctor, and tell some super personal things, there's just an understanding. Doctors don't tell other people. Do you kind of take that mentality? Like if someone came up to you and said, man, I know it's not that big of a deal, but gosh, I'm a professional. I'm superintendent of such and such. And I just really want some marijuana. Like, does he or she even have to ask you, hey, please don't tell you that I'm buying this, or is that something that you just assume it's off the table?
Yeah, exactly. I don't want my business out there, so I would, I wouldn't put anyone else's business out there.
Do you ever have people definitely,
like
kind of scared, like, man, please
older
don't tell
people,
anybody?
or like like you said, professionals. Like, I'm a lawyer.
Tell me some people, nameless people that buy marijuana from you. It's just, I think it'd be interesting to a lot of people.
There's a whole plethora of people, man. You really, I don't even know where to start.
I mean, there's no occupation off the table.
Every walk of life that I've pretty much, somebody that you don't know probably is consuming cannabis, and like you said earlier, you have to be like real secretive about it, and it's kind of sad that it even has to be like that if it's helping these people function in their life and they're not abusing it.
So, well, with a lot of Christian people listening, do you have like pastor or church workers, or like, hey man, please dude, I'll lose my job, but I really want
definitely 100%. Like some people are complete Bible thumpers, so they take it literally,
right?
And it's everyone's doing it, like, well, not everybody, but there's a very large percentage of the population that does it, whether you know it or not.
And I know this doesn't have to concern you, or even something that you think about, but me being a pastor and just kind of seeing how culture is changing and stuff, it is super interesting, because bottom line, and I hope everybody in the South understands this, at some point it's just going to be legal everywhere. And so it's just so interesting, because right now you have a lot of people that would say, okay, not only is it illegal, but it's just not something you should do. Or I've heard this one too, and I want to ask you about this. In fact, let's camp out on this one. Do you agree with the statement of, well, I mean, the difference between alcohol and marijuana is you can have a sip of wine and, maybe feel a little buzz or maybe feel nothing at all. If you breathe in one puff of marijuana, you're going to feel it big time. So it's almost like automatic drunkenness. I
mean, not necessarily. It really depends on the person.
Yeah.
Like sometimes all you need is one little hit to calm your nerves, and that's all it'll take.
Yeah, you get frustrated with the double standard of people.
Yeah, it's silly, really. It's all drugs if you want to get in that category.
There's an organization, I think they're called Moms for Marijuana or something, and I read an article. It was so interesting, and they mentioned how ironic and hypocritical it is, because you've got this plethora of women, young mothers, who are just like, I got to get my happy juice at night, and they drink a bunch of wine, but then they would call anyone that smokes marijuana for the same purpose, like irresponsible and criminals.
Ridiculous.
And crazy.
If you have to drink yourself numb at night to go to sleep, then it's the same thing. You're abusing a drug.
Yeah.
Alcohol is a drug.
Yeah. Now, if marijuana does become legal everywhere, how does that affect you as a career?
I mean, it will change the game, definitely, but me personally, I find that as a positive, you know, so I won't have to be slinking around and, having to operate everything black market on the East Coast and feel like I have to look over my shoulder and, keep everything under wraps. I'm kind of looking forward to it being legal so that the culture as a whole in America will understand that it's not this demonic thing that it's been made out to be for decades in America.
Yeah, totally. Now, what I was talking to a guy about a week ago, and he told me that he started smoking, I think it was 18 years old, and he made no qualms. He was just like, dude, I started smoking a lot, and I've literally been smoking a lot. He said for the past 12 years. Now, he said it's not like he's anti-marijuana right now, but almost in his own words, he said, man, I just realized I've got to grow up because it's making me lazy. I don't feel motivated and all of that. Would that be an example of someone that just doesn't know moderation?
Yeah, that's what I would say. When you use it so heavily like that, how can you be motivated if you're just completely out of your mind high all the time?
Right.
You can't expect to get anything done. So, I think everyone needs to find their own happy medium.
Right.
If they want to use that as something to help them function in life.
Yeah.
Same with alcohol,
Yeah.
Some people go overboard and abuse it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. How do you get it from California here? Do you take road trips?
The mail.
The mail, really?
The easiest way.
How do you do that? There's no risk involved?
There's always risk involved, but if you know how to package it properly, and it'll get here.
Yeah. So some of the mechanics that are interesting for me, how much weed do you need as far as distribution for the next 6 months? I mean, are we talking... and I'm sure some people's mind can't really grasp what a gram looks like or something.
Yeah,
Are we talking a huge cardboard box, just full of it?
An ounce is a lot, but it's not. That's really nothing.
Yeah.
I would say if everything's going smoothly, I would go through at least a pound a month. If not more.
Yeah.
So.
And what is somewhat of the going rate these days?
Depends on. I tend to keep my prices not as inflated.
Yeah.
That's because, like I said, I do it. Obviously, I need to make money, but I'm not doing it for that sole purpose.
Right.
I'm helping people out. My mother even uses it, so I hook her up, and
That's convenient right there, boy. My son. That's cool, man. So do you keep whatever you're distributing, is it just in a safe place in your house?
No, I have a place where I keep it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I mean, because that would be a really bad situation if a fire happened or something. I mean,
there's always risks with everything, but you just gotta make smart moves. That's like my main thing is like making everything a smart move, not flaunting, not trying to get yourself caught, because I'm not a young kid out there just like trying to look cool with his friends because I sell weed,
Right.
It's because I need it personally, and why can't I be able to help other people that need it as well?
Yeah, totally. Do you ever sense from people that are like, oh yeah, and you're talking, they know that you have marijuana, and you're just like, they're really trying to be buddies with me for ulterior motives?
Definitely, that happens quite often, actually.
Really? And is that, what kind of person are you? Is that disheartening, or you just let
it? It kind of bums me out a little bit, but I feel like those are the people that I will hook them up, but it's not going to be as cheap as someone that I know who's not just some random person, trying to come up on me.
Yeah, totally. Gosh, that's so crazy. As far as smoking it, what and I've heard personal opinions from different people. Do you think that there is let's talk strictly positive stuff. Like, do you think that there are more profound potential of deeper thinking, hearing music in a different way, coming up with like crazy ideas, and maybe you write them down, and when you're not high, you're like, man, this really is a good idea. Like, is there a deeper level of creativity? I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
I believe so. I mean, I feel like it just helps you like get out of your own specific train of thought for a little while. And it's what I like about it is it's not like doesn't last forever. It's just like maybe an intense hour of relaxation and thinking hard. Like I tend to play guitar whenever I get smoke a little in the evening, and I feel like it almost opens up the floodgates of creativity because I'm letting my mind flow more freely, and I'm not trying to control what I'm doing. And maybe I'll come with a riff that I definitely wouldn't even have thought of if I was in my normal state of mind.
Yeah, totally. How about I've done research, and there's apparently paranoia, forgetfulness, and those sort of things. Is that when someone is high right then and there, not necessarily like afterwards? Or
I feel like sometimes if you get too stoned, your short-term memory's a little, but that's just because you're like, I'd say it makes you a little more absent-minded sometimes. But it's just, it really depends on how much you consume. Like just boils down to that.
Has there ever been a time that you have, or maybe someone else has told you that they've hallucinated or seen things or anything like that?
Not necessarily. It definitely will make your brain seem a little fuzzy sometimes. So that I could see if someone who's not as used to it, like interpreting that as seeing things and whatnot. But I tend to think it just makes you feel a little more loose and a little more chill. That's my experiences. But each person has their own interpretation.
Now I've heard different opinions on this too. Driving. Because I've heard some people say, you're crazy, there's no way you should drive high. And then I've heard people say, I'm actually a little paranoid, thus I am more careful.
I personally experienced both of those sides. You
have personally experienced
both sides. Like, it could be the perfect amount of high where you're just like a little bit, and you're, like you said, like paying more attention because you're a little bit high.
Right.
But I mean, here in South Carolina, it's more of I don't like to drive when I'm high because I know there's literally cops on every corner around here, you know? South is definitely more heavily policed. You know?
Yeah. Now, if a cop pulls you, can they just tell that you're high? Is there a way of figuring out like some sort of breathalyzer or?
There is a way, some sort of breathalyzer thing that they have developed, but I don't think they have it over here on the East Coast yet.
Gotcha.
I know it's on the West Coast. They can kind of tell, but I mean, some people, it's easier to read than others. Like me personally, I don't feel like I look high when I'm high, but some people, their eyes get glazed over and super red, and they seem more goofy. Like,
is that quantitative? Like, is that because they smoke more?
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
But some people just have that reaction to it, just even if they smoke a little bit, red eyes.
Yeah. Do you personally prefer getting high by yourself, or is it fun to do that with other people? Or
I like to do it with other people,
Yeah.
Little joint between friends.
Yeah.
I mean, sitting around a fire, nothing better than that.
What would you say about people that say things along the lines of, yeah, man, but it's illegal. Like, you're not a law-abiding citizen. I have my opinions of that, and I won't give them to you.
Honestly, alcohol was illegal at one point in this country's history, and people were still running that underground. It's the same concept, I think. I just think the government doesn't know how to control it yet.
Yes,
because it is a plant that you can grow yourself.
Yeah,
and it scares them, and it makes it so when they can't control it, they can't tax it right, and people are doing it themselves. Then they want money. It's really what it boils down to.
Yeah.
It's like, how can we get our share off of what's going on?
I think it's it's such another double standard, because a lot of the people that want to throw the law thing out there, how many times did they listen to music illegally? Like, back in the day, burning CDs illegally, or running red lights and stop signs. I mean, it's just like, okay, well, why do you do that kind of stuff?
How many times have you driven a little drunk and say, "Oh, I'm fine"? Everyone breaks the law.
Right.
It's to what degree you do it, really.
Yeah. Do you think that what's your ethnicity?
I'm Hispanic.
Hispanic.
Yes, sir.
Do you think that you would have more severe treatment or consequences than someone doing the same exact thing that's white?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Just because I've experienced it, like police profiling me just because of the color of my skin. Definitely.
Yeah.
That's also a sad truth about America.
Oh, very.
It's racial profiling is a real thing.
Yeah.
Like, it does happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether we want to believe it or not, it's definitely a thing.
Yeah.
It's still heavily ground into our society.
Yeah. Totally. So why West Coast? Is that because it's too risky to grow in mass quantity here?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I mean, how big of a plot are we talking? Like, what's the square footage of what you're growing?
The farm that I was working on before I came back out this coast was a 40-acre farm with about I don't know the exact square footage, but I mean we had about 3,500 plants. Very large size.
So this is you
me and my people that I work with.
5 people, 10 people? 20?
There's about 4 or 5 of us. Yeah.
And so do they all do what you do? Take it to another state and?
Not necessarily, because there still is, the medical market, out there who we could sell to dispensaries and all that, but then there's, getting it over here, which will make you a little bit more money, but, it's a risk involved with it.
Right. Now, do you have people working for you as far as helping with distribution and saying, hey, can you sell some of this? Like, how does that work?
I don't, just because, like I said, I like to keep my stuff, I like to hold the reins of my horses pretty tight.
Yeah.
Just so it, because you never know.
Yeah.
Someone could land you in prison. And
right.
That's not what I'm about.
Yeah. What would be, if so, let's say someone rats you out, and so someone's got a pretty solid lead. Okay, this guy Herman, we think we know where he lives, and we're going to go to his door. What would happen if you went to your door, and wherever you were, you knew the marijuana was there, and I don't know how they would get a warrant without. I don't know how all that law. But anyway, how would you handle something like that? Would you immediately? Do you know the law well enough to where you could say, "I don't know what you're talking about. Like you can't come in here."
Yeah, without a warrant or probable cause, they cannot enter my house.
Yeah.
So and
Can a probable cause be someone saying, "No, I know this guy has it"? Is that?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
I feel like they definitely need, to observe you doing these things before they can just go by the word of like one random person,
Yeah.
But it is a reality that could happen,
Yeah. Yeah. And on the scale of 1 to 10, 10 being paranoid every second, and 1 being you don't care, like where are you with being worried about that?
I'm pretty low, man, because like I said, I don't really mix with any sketchy people.
Yeah.
So I don't really have that sort of thing in my life. Not like another person who, would live, downtown Charleston, who just is trying to make a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Who would sell to whoever they don't care as long as they're making money.
Yeah.
It's not what it's about for me.
Have you ever interacted with other weed dealers that annoy or frustrate you with how they handle their business?
Absolutely, yeah. It was like too flaunting with it, and like I got this, I got that. They don't really know what they have, anyways.
Yeah,
like, just really silly to me.
Yeah,
trying to be cool about being a drug dealer, and it's like, that's not cool. I mean, you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Right, right. Now, is this what you dedicate all your time to, as far as for income?
Most of it, yes.
Yeah,
yeah.
And I would imagine it's pretty fun. I mean, you're interacting with people,
Yeah.
You're providing them with something that helps, and those sorts of things. Have you ever partnered up, informally with a doctor that knows you, and I don't know if it would be against the law for them to do this, but refer a patient to you and say, "Hey, I know a really cool guy that you can trust, and you should probably try some marijuana"?
I actually have a couple friends who are in the medical field who have referred friends to me. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a great feeling to know that something that I've grown is going to go to help someone benefit them.
Yep.
So they don't have to take 10 pills a day to make their body feel normal.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
But rather, smoke a couple joints of something that grew out of the ground.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. How about are you knowledgeable as to what the common consensus? Well, I guess it's too big of a field for there to be a consensus, but people in the psychology field, do you find, if you've interacted with them, do you find that they are also very open to the effects that marijuana has on the brain as a plus?
I'm not certain about that.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be a better option than most of the stuff that people prescribe for different ailments that cannabis could be used to help out with or cure.
Yeah. Has there ever been something very bad happen to you since you've been selling, whether it was someone accusing you of lacing it with something, or someone threatening that they are going to tell if you don't give them something free? I mean, have you ever had anything crazy?
I haven't really ran into anything like that.
Yeah.
Thank God, Lord knows nobody needs to deal with that.
Yeah, totally. Can you think of any other, I guess, stereotypes that people have of marijuana or marijuana deal? Oh, I have a question. Are there a lot of marijuana dealers that also sell hard drugs that are harmful?
Definitely. I still feel like that's most of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? So it's not that common to do what you're doing by just selling marijuana?
I don't believe so, no.
Gosh. And is that something that you would agree with common culture beliefs that all that stuff is bad for you? Or do you
definitely.
Think,
I don't believe in any kind of chemical drugs, man.
Yeah.
Like whether it be like recreational chemical drugs or not. Like I don't like any of that.
Yeah. How about any other stuff out there that like I heard recently nutmeg can make people high. Have you heard about that?
Oh, no.
Google that later, because I was like, what in the world?
Sounds crazy.
But are there any other natural ways along the same line as weed, or is weed just kind of in a
I feel
category
like
of its own?
Yeah, it's kind of its own category, man. It's a plant that has evolved, ready for us to use, but
Yeah.
government's not trying to let us.
Yeah, totally. Do you find yourself? I mean, I guess maybe you would not open up to people that you didn't already trust, but do you ever find yourself in a position of having to defend what you do because someone's just like,
oh, definitely. There are so many ignorant people. They're just ignorant to it. They have never even been around it. They don't know what it does. They don't know really anything about it besides the fact that their parents have told them to stay away from it, and then it's bad, and it's could be the furthest thing from the truth.
Yeah. What would be your perception on, and would this depend on what job it is? How do you feel about someone getting up in the morning, having a cup of coffee, couple eggs, grits, and then smoke some marijuana, get in the car and go to work? Do you think there's some fields where that would work?
I think as long as you're not using heavy machinery or something that's going to be risking somebody else's life, it would be perfectly fine as long as you're not. I know many people that have a couple puffs before they go into work just to distress themselves before they have to deal with crowds of people or what have you.
So you would guess that they are merely distressed. Like what's the clear the any blurriness that people may have in distressing and then getting high? And then would most people consider getting stoned to be an extra level of high? I mean,
I think there's definitely levels to it.
Yeah.
The difference between taking a couple hits and feeling the mellow of it, and being able to relax and letting your system calm down, versus someone who smokes an entire joint and is just blitzed out of their mind. It's same difference between someone who drinks one beer or one glass of wine versus having 6 beers and getting completely wasted.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really look down upon it, but there's a time and place for everything.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Well, dude, this has been awesome. I think the goal of this episode is not only to, I think it's an interesting discussion, but I do think, I'm totally fine with someone where they're at currently, their upbringing, what culture they grew up in, what sort of parents they have. I mean, I totally understand that some people are going to be at a place where they just don't get it. They're like, no, marijuana, that's bad. I mean, you've heard the Just Say to No campaign that Reagan did back in the 80s. It's all bad sort of thing. For sure. But I do want people, I am so pleased that people get to hear from someone that at the very least can relate to and be like, oh, that's not a bad guy. He actually seems like
I'm just a normal guy who exists in the same society as you do.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to hurt anybody. I'm just trying to live my life and help people out.
And you did not go to an elementary school today, did you?
No, I did not.
No. Oh my gosh. And I don't even think I asked you this. How did you initially get into it? Like, did you smoke it at first and thought, man, this is really helpful to me. I want to do this too.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like I said, for years, thought about it and, tried all of the chemical stuff for my anxiety, and this didn't vibe well with my system. And I remember when I tried it for the first time, I felt like, wow, I don't have, I'm not anxious about anything right now. Not overthinking everything like I normally do.
Yep.
And, I just took it from there. And I'm originally from the West Coast, so I kind of had, a foot in the door over there, and just kind of actively seek to that, and everything kind of fell into place for me.
Yep.
And now here we are.
Yep. There you go. So when you do go to the West Coast, I mean, are we talking this is, super easy stuff like dig some holes, throw some seeds? I mean, or is it pretty hard stuff?
Not as easy as you would think it would be. It's pretty labor intensive. Caring for the plants, it's an everyday thing. That's why when you're out on the farm, you're living there, and from pretty much sunrise to sunset, you're either doing or thinking about what you're doing next to help the plants, whether it be watering, feeding them some nutrients, or just to make the most quality product you can.
Yeah. So is there always someone there? I mean, because right now you're on the East Coast and you're in the distributing part of your job. So is there always someone tending to?
Yeah, definitely.
And they're tending to your stuff too? Like, do you have stuff growing right now that belongs to you?
Yeah. During the winter, because the operation that I do is an outdoor operation. So during the winter, it's all about just keeping what's called the mother plants alive, and then we take those mother plants when it's about to be sunny and time to plant outdoors, and we clone them and make the thousands of little plants so that we can grow them out in the fields. So there's always an active role in keeping an operation running.
Yeah. Is there how risky is the weather? Cold, and then also hail. I mean, I'm a Little House on the Prairie freak. I know that sounds cheesy to a lot of people, but man, Charles Ingalls,
it gets pretty nasty out there. That's why during the winter we tend to keep a low-key thing, like a little bit of mothers growing indoors and keeping them warm and whatnot.
Yeah.
Until spring comes around and plants can be outside for extended amounts of time. There's not as much rain because one little rain and windstorm could potentially ruin your whole crop with mold or what have you.
So you just have to really be vigilant on how they look.
It's a very dedicated thing.
Gosh, that's nuts, man. How is there any technology that's available today that was not for people that did what you're doing now 20 years ago? Like, is there any technology you're able to take advantage of?
Definitely. There's new techniques, plenty of it.
Give me one or two.
Makes your job a little easier. There's a thing called light depping, which is a process where you, instead of just waiting for the plants to go all season and to produce the buds, with the light dep process, you're pulling tarps over the tops of the plants in the evening for 12 hours. So, tricking them into thinking that this is like their flowering time. So, 12 hours of sun, 12 hours of dark. And so that it enables you to help the plant finish stronger and produce a better product in that end. And that's just one of them. Many other things, watering, feeding the plants organic nutrients is a lot easier because you don't have to manufacture it yourself. There's plenty of things on the market that are available for that kind of thing.
Yeah. Would you, would you sell marijuana via mail? I know you ship it to yourself from the West Coast, but if someone said, "Hey, man, can you send me some stuff? I'll send you some cash."
I tend to say no on that, just because there's always a risk involved. Because even through mailing it, and even if you have it packaged properly, you never know, it could get caught up in the mail, and you don't want any attachment to that, or the potential risk of sending it to somebody and them getting in trouble for it. So I tend to lean against doing anything like that.
Yeah.
Because if I mail it to myself, I'm assuming all the risk
Right.
in the process.
Yeah.
So if something happens to it and it gets lost in the mail, it's just on me, and that's money out of my pocket. Yeah.
Would you say that's most people that do what you do, or you'd say most people take a lot of chances? And
I feel like it just depends on the person, really, what they think is worth the risk.
Yeah.
There's people who pack a van full of it and hire a couple of older people to drive it across the country, and that's a risk, but that's not one.
A couple of older people?
Yeah, because it makes it less inclined for the police to pull you over or profile you, and
like a truck driver that's taking a shipment.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. And I know recently in the news, elderly couple that was driving across the country got busted with, I think, like 42 pounds or something like that, which is a pretty substantial amount.
Yeah. And that was what they were doing?
Yeah,
working for somebody else?
exactly. Yep.
And typically, is that a pretty good gig to get, like a lot of money there?
If you can, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
If you can make it across,
I would have loved to have heard the first conversation between that couple, like, Ethel, I think there's some money to take in marijuana across. Awesome. Well, listeners, if you want to get in touch with Herman, it's 1-800-911-WEED, right?
Yeah.
All right. Awesome.